Hi, this is Fix My Fibro and my name's Bernadette. So I was talking about purines and how purines are in DNA and also in our energy power molecules, our ATP molecules that give off energy, that when they lose a phosphate, we get all this energy, and that's how our cells, that's the currency of energy in our cells. So the reason why it's shutting down our energy and causing such severe fatigue is because the A in the ATP is adenosine, and adenosine is a purine, okay? So there are two purines, adenosine and guanosine, that are in your DNA, but the adenosine is just not used just in DNA. The body's kind of recycled it and went, hey, you know what? You're a pretty cute molecule. I think I can use you for all of our energy. You want to be our energy superstar in the body? They're like, yeah, okay, I'll be that. Anyway, so adenosine gets used for your energy to make ATP, and that's where the problem lies. I believe in fibromyalgia, we have antibodies against purines. There is no diagnostic kit on the planet that looks for antibodies present in your blood from a blood test for adenosine or for purines. Why I think that is because we get a positive result in another test that's looking at double-stranded DNA, which, if you know what the autoimmune disease is, if you've got antibodies against your own DNA, that's called lupus. So lupus means you have antibodies that your body, your immune system has produced that recognize double-stranded DNA. Now remember, half of DNA is purines, half is pyrimidines. The test is measuring and looking at if you've got autoantibodies against double-stranded DNA, but it's obviously got slight reactivity to purines, which are half of your DNA, and that's why we get low-level positive results in a diagnostic test that's a blood test that's called an ENA. ENA, when you get a positive ENA result, ENA stands for anti-nuclear antibody. So it's looking to see if your cells, when they look at them under a microscope and they put on a fluorescent stain, does anything like light up, like little light bulbs all through your cell? If you get that in a speckled pattern, that will indicate that, yes, there are autoantibodies in that cell. So then they do another test, a more detailed test called an ENA, which is called an extended nuclear antibody test. And when they do that, that's where the test for double-stranded DNA is. It's got a whole lot of different autoantibody tests that it looks at for things like scleroderma, a whole lot of other autoimmune illnesses. There's about 10 or 12 in that ENA test that they will just scan all of them to see if you have any of those autoimmune diseases. We often, and myself included, have had a positive, they call it a weak positive to double-stranded DNA. Your doctor will look at it and say, it's what's called a low titer or a low result, like a low level result. It's a low titer result to double-stranded DNA. If it was really high, yes, you've definitely got lupus. I've coined the term FUPUS for fibromyalgia like lupus because I believe we have autoantibodies to purines. And why? Because we wouldn't be getting that test being slightly positive. It's the cross-reactivity of that test, and it's picking up part of those purines and giving a weak positive result. Because the test is not specific, the autoantibodies in that test that it's trying to detect, or the autoantibodies we've got that the test is trying to detect, are not specific just to purines alone. So it's the fault is in the design of the diagnostic test. And this is getting way too much into science and immunology to explain to you. I don't need to, but to anyone listening that's from a diagnostic company, you'd understand what I'm saying, that the specificity, it's not specific enough to purines, autoantibodies to purines. We're only detecting autoantibodies to double-stranded DNA. And that's why, once again, we're not diagnosed with this purine issue or the presence of potential autoantibodies. But that's why I think we've got autoantibodies. When we eat too many purines or a medium, our immune system is looking at those as foreign. It attaches to our purines. Our purines then would end up on the receptor, but kind of get blocked, like a drain gets blocked, because we've got this big antibody, an antibody from our immune cell attached to our purine, which is then attached to the receptor. And this big complex blocks that purine receptor that doesn't allow for energy production, which is why we get all the severe fatigue. So that's my theory on purines. And purines are way big an issue in fibromyalgia. When you cut out your purines in your diet and eat a low purine diet, it will be life-changing. I helped a friend's niece, a girlfriend I used to work with, Jan. Her niece has got fibromyalgia, and she introduced me to her, and her mum works in diagnostic pathology, and they're like, we're going to all these doctors, we're not getting answers. She's been so sick for years now, only 2 years. I thought, well, gee, I'm 25 now, wow. So I thought, all right, I'll help you. I'm happy. 2 years is too long for anyone. When we discussed all of her symptoms, when I said to me, just tell me everything that's going on and what symptoms you have. I said, you've just got the purine symptoms predominantly. She has mild MCAS symptoms. And that's the thing. The MCAS as well changes over time. And I'll explain that in another video. You can have different levels and your MCAS can get worse over time. I now have much worse MCAS symptoms than I've ever had in 25 years because I nipped it in the bud initially, and every other systemic onset that I had, those massive 2-year onsets where your whole body goes off with the MCAS, I was able to shut it down, like I said, by other alternative medicines or other things. This last MCAS event that I've had has changed things in my body that I now get really classical fibromyalgia symptoms. Severe edema, never used to get that. I get severe edema now. And it's like my fibromyalgia now, 25 years later, has progressed to what people get fibromyalgia straight away. But because I've managed it over the years and been able to shut down, even though I didn't know what was going on, I was able to shut down parts of it. That's, that's another interesting part to fibromyalgia. You have to understand what part of the process you're in. Like what is it, the purines that are really, like the purines are everyone. I've never met a fibromyalgic that doesn't have the purine problem. But some people just have the purine problem. I met a lady at my gym the other day, said, I have fibromyalgia. She couldn't even pronounce it. But when I spoke to her, she just had the purine symptoms. She really didn't have the MCAS. So this is the problem. It's like a spectrum disorder, but everyone that gets told they've got fibromyalgia has this purine problem. So you must go on a low purine diet. There are no drugs that will change that. Low purine is the only way to go because you've got antibodies. Until they develop a drug that will block our autoantibody so it doesn't latch onto our purines, we can then go back to eating purines. But because that's happening and it's blocking that receptor that controls gout, that's why when you have too many purines, we end up with gout attacks. That's why when you put a chemical called uric acid or urea anywhere on your body, on your skin, because it's in skin creams, it's in shampoos, you will get massive gout attacks because your purine receptors can't process it. So more videos, more explanation. See you next time.